Good morning, geometry students. I hope you're all well and healthy and having a good day today. And if you're not, also completely understandable. Not everybody's going to have their best day every day. So please know that I'm praying for you regardless of whether it's a good day or not a good day. We all need prayer. We need to rejoice with those who are rejoicing and also cry with those who are in the need of a shoulder to cry on, or a virtual shoulder to cry on in some cases. So we're just going to jump in here and review a few things for your quiz tomorrow. Now, as usual, you're going to receive a copy of it via email, and it'll be a link on grade link, and then you'll submit it using a form. I want to consolidate some formulas here so you've got them pretty much all in one place. Talk about them a little bit, do a few examples, and then go over homework questions that I prepared in advance from the questions that you asked. So it's not the kind of review where you have every single question gone over. You do need to make sure that you're thinking these things through and what they mean. Watching the other videos would have helped a lot. So just to review, we had that whole thing where we were talking about Euler's formula, okay, where you had the number of vertices plus the number of faces equals the number of edges plus 2. So if you have a picture, you should be able to count vertices, faces, and edges in order to verify the formula. Or if you're given a word problem where you're given vertices and faces, you should be able to find the number of edges. Or if you're given edges and vertices, you should be able to find the faces. Just if you're given any two of these variables, you should be able to find the third. Lateral surface area of a prism. Okay, lateral surface area of a prism. Perimeter times height. Just to remind you what a prism looks like, here's a nice prism. Okay, so lateral surface area, perimeter times height. So this one happens to be on its side. Remember, the bases are the ones that are the same. So you've got the two bases. So the lateral surface area for this particular problem would turn out to be perimeter times height. I'm sorry, just getting my pencil ready here. Perimeter times height. So the perimeter of the base, all right, this 7.6, even though it's across the way, can come across here. So we would have P is going to equal 7 plus 3 plus 7.6, which would give you 17.6. Times the height. The height in this case happens to be 9, so L equals 17.6 times 9. And just really quickly, 17.6 times 9, 158.4. 158.4. Now I have no units on here, but if there were, it would be a square unit, so I'm just going to say 158.4 units squared. All right, so just so you know that the lateral surface area on any prism is the area of those rectangles that go up along the sides, even if the thing is knocked over on its side. Okay, the parallel sides are the bases, so the lateral surface area only affects them. Now, if you were not given this third side and it's a right triangle, you can always use a squared plus b squared equals c squared in order to find this third side. If you're given them and it's another shaped triangle and they just give you the numbers and you don't even know right angle, that's fine. Once again, you have to have the perimeter of the base times the height for something like that. So there's your example on that one. Okay, total surface area means that you take that lateral surface area and you have to add the two bases in. Okay, so the total surface area, you have to take the lateral surface area and add the two bases in, regardless of what those two bases look like. So back to our example here that we were looking at. Okay, the entire surface area is the lateral, which we found, plus 2 times the base. Now, this is where you have a whole bunch of area of shape formulas to think about. You've got the rectangle, you've got the triangle, you've got the regular polygon formula, any type that you could imagine. And on one of the other lessons in one of the other notes, you had that list that I told you should have of all those areas. So you might want to look back into your notes where you wrote that down when you took the good notes before, so that you have that list. So your base in this case, because it's a triangle, is 1/2 little b base times little h height. The big H height here is the height of the whole prism, but the little h height is the height of just that little figure that's on the end. And if it's stacked up so that it's up and down, it would be the area of that base. So you need to know your base formulas. So 1/2 base 3 times 7. So you're looking for 1/2 of 21. So that would be 10.5. So what you're doing now is you're taking the length, or the lateral surface area, L, 158.4, plus 2 of those triangles. So you're taking really 158.4 plus, and we're back to that 21 again. So 179.4. And again, that would be in whatever units it is squared. If it had centimeters, it would be centimeters squared. So we have that to think about. Okay, it can be like that. It can also apply to a cylinder in its own way, but let me go back to those formulas that we were just taking a look at. So we've got total surface area of a prism. It might even not say the word total in front of it. If it just says surface area of a prism, that's the formula that you use. Lateral surface area specifically does not include the top and bottom. And another thing to think about, and I'll tell you that this really is a thing, if you had a prism or if you had a cylinder and it says you just want to paint the sides and the top, you wouldn't add in 2 bases, then you would just add in the 1 base and the lateral surface area. So keep that in mind, because there is definitely a thing in there that you would think about like that. So let's go back once again to the formulas. For cylinders, cylinders are almost the same as prisms, because cylinders just means the top and bottom are circles. So if you notice, the lateral surface area of a cylinder, instead of perimeter and height, circumference and height, and not even an instead of here, we have length plus 2 base. So I want to run through an example of that real quick. Okay, so lateral surface area. C standing for circumference. Circumference equals 2 pi r, so don't forget that. So 2 times pi times 10. So that will be 20 pi. And I'm just going to leave it at 20 pi for just a quick minute. 20 pi times 20. 20 pi times 20. That'll be our lateral surface area, just the part that goes around this. So 400 pi. And just a real quick calculation, 400 times pi. So 1,256.6 units squared. Okay, so the surface area once again is the lateral surface area plus 2 times the base. Now this was a question that somebody asked. Just to clarify that, you're using the perimeter, okay, in order to get the lateral surface area, but you have to use the area formula for a circle to get that top and bottom circle. Okay, so in this case, our base, because it's a circle, is pi r squared. It's different. So the person that specifically asked that question, make sure you take note here. Here's the difference. So here's pi times 10 squared. That's 100 pi. So our surface area here is L. I'm just going to leave it in terms of pi here because it's easier. I have 400 pi plus 2 times 100 pi. So that would give us 600 pi. And we'll simplify that out. 600 pi. So 1884.95 rounds to 1885 units squared. So that includes the top and the bottom. Now, as I said a minute ago, if you needed to paint like a tower or something and you just wanted the sides and the top, instead of doing plus 2b, you just do plus 1b. And yes, I know I have volume down here. I'm saving that for a minute. Okay, so we've got the surface areas for the cylinders and the prisms. They're very closely related. Just like very closely related are the lateral surface areas of cones and pyramids, and the surface areas of cones and pyramids. So we need to think about them kind of together. Notice that the only difference between these formulas is this says perimeter, this says circumference. Okay, and then L is the slant height, and that you've got to be a little bit careful on. So let's take a look at that real quick. Okay, so the lateral surface area of here, the slant height is different than the height of the pyramid, so it's not going down into the middle of the pyramid. It's also different than the length of the side. The slant height is its own thing. So either that will be given to you, or if you know this and you know this, you can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared in order to find the slant height in order to do this problem. Okay, so I'm giving you some skeletons, some good ideas what to do, and then you need to think that through. So this one we have the information given to us. So the perimeter here, if it's 3.2 for one side, the short answer is you count the number of sides here. So we've got our perimeter, 6. So 3.2 times 6. $19.2. Let's do that. And then the slant height is given to you. So we have 1/2 of 19.2 times 7. So the lateral surface area for a pyramid has nothing to do with the bottom part. So we need to then multiply the 19.2 times 0.5. And then multiply that times 7 and get our 67.2 units squared. Surface area, once again, the formula here, if you have the apothem, this works out great. Another way that you can handle surface area, and I want to add this, is you can take the lateral plus 1 base. So if you had a different shaped base like a square, it might be a little bit of overkill to have to find the apothem first. So you might want to just say that you're going to take L, here we go, L plus B. That's another way of doing that for both the surface area of a pyramid or the surface area of a cone. Once you have the lateral, you can just add the area of the base, whichever is easiest for you. Or if you're going straight to it, you can use this formula. So I'm going to take a look at that formula with you. So our surface area, we still need to know the perimeter, 19.2. But we have our slant height plus our apothem. So it would take a little bit more finagling here, but not too bad. 19.2. We'll do a little cleaning up before we put it in the calculator. Okay, there we go. So we'll take 0.5 times 19.2 times 9.8. 94.08 units squared. All right, so we've got that happening. So we've talked about all of these. If you were given a lateral surface area and then asked to find another thing, you could go through and solve it backwards for those. We also have volumes that we talked about. Volume of a prism and volume of a cylinder. We did not get to volumes of cones and pyramids yet. That would be in the next section. So right now you don't even have to worry about that. So let's take a look real quick. We'll backtrack to here where I had a volume question, or even to back to this one. We had volume. Okay, so volume for a prism is base times height. So you need the area of the base, which we already found, and the height, which is the height of the prism. So here you would have 10.5 times 9. Simple as that. 10.5 times 9. 94.5. And this one would be in units cubed, cubic units. Okay, cubic units because it's how many cubes it would take to fill that up. We'll run through. We've got several of these things going. Here, volume is base times height. You see a little bit of a trend going here. It's going to be the same. So we need the area of the base, which we already found is 100 pi. And our height is 20. So this gives us 2,000 pi, which is approximately equal to, let's see here, 2,000 times pi. I'm guessing 6,200. There we go, 6,283. Because it's really just doubling the 3.14, so 6,283. And this would be, again, cubic units. Whatever that unit would be, centimeters or meters or whatever. All right, moving right along. This one, we don't have the volume yet. This one, we can do volume. Volume is base times height. They've taken the liberty of giving you the base. This was in your homework, one of the homework questions. But just so that you know, and just in case you missed it, if they give you the base, this one's one of the simplest things you're going to do. You're just going to take your base and multiply it times your height. And have your answer just come out like that, 4,000 cubic centimeters for that figure. Not too much work to do with that. And even if it was slanted over, like tilted over, and you knew the height and the height was given as the slanted thing outside, you would still just take base times height. So when you see the questions, the two questions that are like this, just kind of say, all right, this is an easy one. Okay, so hopefully you've watched to this point and you are knowing that. All right, so we have all those formulas that we just went over. Same thing, volume cylinder, volume prism, even if it's a strange looking prism. All those different things, all those formulas that I just talked about. I have another one just to get a cone for you. Okay, this one is not given your slant height, so you need to take a look at that. I was talking about that a minute ago. We have a diameter and we have a height of the cone, but since we don't have the slant height, you need to find it. So let's be careful here. Remember, a diameter is twice the radius, so that means I'm going to be taking 10 squared plus 6 squared and finding L from that. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It was kind of hiding a little bit. So 136 is L squared. So L is going to equal sorry about that. There we go. 11.7 or about 11.7. And so once we have that at 11.7, we need to find the circumference. Okay, circumference is pi d or 2 pi r. I know the diameter, so I'm just going to say that's 12 pi. So I've got 1/2 12 pi times 11.7, which is 6 times pi times 11.7. And I know that I have told you do not mix your decimals and your pi at the end, so you have to multiply this out. So I'm going to take 6 times pi times 11.7. Yes, I did a little rounding there, so about 220.5. For my lateral surface area. If I want the total surface area, it's 1/2 times circumference, which is 12 pi, times L, which is 11.7, plus R, which is 6. So 6 pi times 17.7. We do the math. Uh, 6 pi times 11.7 or 17.7, sorry. And we get 333.6. Now these are both areas, so they're in square units, whatever those units might be. Okay, so we have run through all the formulas. So this is the point where, okay, I'm going to transition into going over the homework questions. So this is the point where hopefully you've been watching it all along. And if you have watched to this point and you didn't have any homework questions, then you are allowed to say that you watched the entire video. All right? So hopefully you're watching, and if you did, then God bless you. I hope that you have a great success on this. There will be a couple things thrown in as I go over homework questions that would probably be helpful to you. But at least you've gone through, you've seen and heard most of what needs to be said, and I'm going to run through these and show and say a few things. But this would be the point where you could say truthfully, okay, I watched the whole video even though it's not every minute. So I'm going to run through what you guys have been asking the last few days. In assignment 51, somebody asked about cross sections. I don't have a whole lot that I'm doing about cross sections. The whole point to that was making sense of the volume, where you took the area of the base times the height. But just so that you can see, because somebody asked about it, if you made a plane that was parallel in here, okay, and we did this, we would have, okay, and we put in the parallel, you would end up having another square if you chunked it up in the middle like this. So you would have a square. Okay, that's not perfect or anything, but parallel to the top and bottom, if I had done it really carefully, you would have a square. The other one here, number 15, diagonal, a diagonal of the left and right. So a diagonal goes across, oh, I didn't mean to do that. There, just there. I'm going to do this. Okay, a diagonal goes from one corner to another. So there we have that. And it says to connect that to a vertex on the other side. So here's a vertex on the other side. So what that would mean would be, if I drew in lines, I'd have one that goes here, and then I'd have another one that comes across here. And the shape that makes is a triangle. Okay, so the answer for this one's square, this one's a triangle. Drawing two parallel planes, this is a review real quick. So for number 51, you could simply draw something like that. There's one and then another one. Yes, I'm doing this rough and quick, but I don't want to take forever on this. And drawing a circular cylinder, you could draw two circles. Okay, once again, I'm not using my tools on purpose just because, there we go, that would be close enough to a circular cylinder. So we have that. All right, moving right along. Some of these others you'll find a little bit more helpful. In assignment 52, question 21 said, find the length of each edge of a cube with a surface area of 1,350 square inches. All right, well, if we know the surface area, that's length plus 2b. Length is perimeter times height. If we don't know how long each side is, okay, if you're thinking of that, you've got the perimeter is 4 times x going around the bottom, and then the height would be x, so the lateral surface area would be 4x squared, plus the base. Okay, for a square on the base, you'd have x times x, but you'd have 2 of them, so that would give you 6x squared. And then you would plug in the 6x squared equals 1350 and continue down and solve it. So you got x equals 15 inches on that. And I don't know where your problem was. Maybe it was just in the setup. Like I say, I'm doing this kind of quickly in the interest of being able to get over all the questions. First of all, this question was multifaceted. The most important part is being able to do part A. Surface area equals lateral surface area plus 2 times the base. This one is super helpful for your quiz. Okay, the lateral surface area is the perimeter 14 times the height. So once you've found perimeter times height, you get 70. 2 times the base, the area of the base is length times width. So 94 inches square. So part A, most important part of this one. The other calculations simply come by multiplying by 2 and multiplying by 3. And what we find if we compare the ratio, okay, what we found here is that 94 compared to 396 would reduce to 1/4. 94 compared to 846 would be 1/9, which really basically just means that if you took 94 times 4, you would get this. 94 times 9, you would get this. So part D is that really what's happening is that however many times you multiply it, if you square that number, that's how many times you'll multiply 94 by in order to get the new answer. So the ratio will be 1 to x squared. Like I say, the most important part for your purposes is part A, but B, C, D are good for thinking about. Number 35 on that same one that somebody asked about, the key to doing this is finding the new diameter of the coated pipe. Okay, so you find the diameter of the coated pipe after it's been encased with the concrete, and then you subtract the diameter of the uncoated pipe, and then you would find the answer. So that's just a quick thing. It is a lateral surface area of a cylinder problem, which we have already gone over in the review. And so in the review, that would be kind of like this, where you're finding the lateral surface area of a cylinder, but it was just a really, really long, skinny cylinder in that problem. Okay, then we move on to this one. This was from assignment 53 that people asked some questions about. This 27 said gave the pyramid slant height, and what you notice here is I've got some notes taken from the problem. I did not write out the entire problem, but I took notes on the problem, which is really what you should be doing on homework questions that you don't understand. And then once you've consolidated the information, it makes it a little easier to figure out. This one had some big challenges in it. Okay, so first, how the number of sides, you could just divide those numbers and find out that it had 3 sides. Now that would give you the ability to find the apothem, and I do think that this is a little bit much because nobody's really going to solve the area of the space by using the apothem. It's just a long process. But if you wanted to, you would realize that it is, since it's a regular figure, you could figure out that each angle was 60 degrees, divide it in half. But honestly, you would be dividing by square root 3, and like I say, this one actually is way more work, so I'm just going to give us a pass on this question, even though yes, you could. If I were doing the entire surface area, I would completely not even bother with this and go straight to the lateral surface area plus the base. And so once again, it is a little complicated because you have to think of it as a 60-60-60 triangle, but not quite as complicated because we need to have 1/2 base times height. So all you need to do is find the height because it's still a 30-60-90. And across from the 60 is the side times square root 3. So we find our area of our base. Area of our base plus the lateral surface area of the sides is going to give you your answer in terms of square root of 3. And that's really all you have to do for that. And 29 gives you the diameter of the cone, the height of the cone, and told to find the lateral surface area. Wait a minute, diameter cone, height of cone, diameter cone, height of cone, asked to find the lateral surface area. Really, this question? Oops, wrong one. This question is really nothing more than that question that I just went over with you for the review, but the numbers are bigger. Okay, so you're just going to take the same approach to that question. For number 32, this one tells you that you're trying to figure out that party hat question, and really the X in this case is the way that it folds, if you can picture in your mind the paper folding, which is a little bit tricky, it's really the slant height of the party hat that we're looking for. So because circumference equals 2 pi r, you can find the radius of the circle on the bottom of the party hat by doing that. But then we have to use a squared plus b squared. This is the height of the party hat equals c squared in order to find that x, which would be the side of the paper for that problem. And number 34, you have a pyramid with a square base. And they want to know, first of all, how far above the floor of the ceiling, if the ceiling is 27.5 feet high. Once again, I'm just going to skip to the part that would be most relevant for you for your quiz, is that the surface area is 1/2 perimeter times L plus A. Perimeter is 204 because the pyramid has a square base. The lateral, or the slant height, said 34 feet 4 inches. Once again, they put everything into this problem. 4 inches is 4/12 of a foot because there's 12 inches in a foot. So this is really 34 and 4/12. It says we need to find the apothem, but since it's a square and the bases are 51, the apothem is just half of that. So 25.5. That one's not too oppressive to find, so I'll do the apothem for that one. Plug in those numbers, you get 6,103 for the surface area of the entire pyramid. Question, I looked at the question, and quite honestly, the way that the picture looks is no way going to work with the information given in the problem. So since it was so deceiving, and if I tell you to look at the picture and the visual, it does not match up with the question the way it should. So I'm just going to choose to focus on part B here on that problem. So we've got our surface area is found, and that's just all we really need to do with that one. Okay, so there we have going over the homework questions. Hopefully you guys are well prepared now for your quiz, and I'm praying for you guys always. So just have a great day and get ready for a wonderful Easter celebration. God bless you and your families.